What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Fortnight on the Isle, my bi-weekly update series, where I talk about all things, essentially everything that is going on in my life every couple weeks. First off, I am happy to say that I have essentially recovered from my sickness that I mentioned in the last one of these updates. I still have a tiny bit of congestion in the sense that if you talk too much, sometimes things get a little bit blocked up in the back of your nasal passage and it makes certain words come out weird. Otherwise, though, I have been fine. It's not enough to affect my recording. In fact, I have recorded 8 videos yesterday, and this is the first of 2 more that I'm recording this evening, and then I'm likely to record another between 2 and 4 early next week as well. So that kind of puts into perspective how much better I have been doing. Total of like 20 videos recorded over the past week, all things considered. Actually, like it's been kind of insane, but I have been prepping a lot ahead of time for a couple weeks to come when I'm not entirely sure what my work and life schedule is going to be looking like, and don't want to miss any content coming out as a result of time constraints. Not entirely sure what else there is to say for my real life at the moment, other than I got a new PC, a big, beefy, monstrous machine that I still need to finish setting up and getting ready to work as a gaming rig. But beyond that, and the fact that I've been reading an absolutely absurd amount, there's really not that much to say at this point. With that being said, in the reading, let's get right to that and what I've been reading. I feel like these last couple updates in general, just in terms of what I've read and how much I've gotten done in the reading sphere, has been really quite insane. But even compared to 2 weeks ago, I would say that this next update, or that this update right here, is actually quite insane. I mentioned in the last video that I did start Ashes of Man after having finally finished Kingdoms of Death, this being the 5th book in the Sun Eater. I did finish it this time around, and not only did it quickly become my favorite book in this entire series, it has become my favorite book of all time. And I'm not actually being facetious there. There was not a single thing about this book that I disliked, beyond how much I hate Rockio for tearing apart my soul, the very fiber of my being. But beyond that fact, and it being written so well, like, I always compare it up to this point to Howling Dark, the second book in the series, which I thought was essentially a perfect book. Ashes of Man is also a perfect book, but has much better prose than Howling Dark already had, therefore making it sort of more perfect. I just really loved it. I had a great time finishing it, and finishing it, I was really worried that I just was not going to be in the mood or capable, essentially, of reading anything at all for days. But luckily, I did force myself to start the monthly classic for March, being Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, within, I don't know, at the end of the day after I finished Ashes of Man. I read the first chapter, so I had already started this, but I read all of this in the period of, I want to say 5 days. It might have technically been 4. So like really, really, really quickly for somebody who reads as slow as me. And the only reason I did that was because, as I mentioned, I recorded well over a dozen videos over the past week, and therefore had to edit and render them. When videos render, there's a period of 20, 25, 30 minutes, however long it takes for the video to render, where my PC's occupied and where I'm not doing anything else. I almost always spend that time reading. And so I had a ton of extra reading time for Wuthering Heights, just as a result of all those videos rendering. I quite enjoyed Wuthering Heights. There was one specific element of it that left me disappointed in the end, unfortunately, because if that specific element had been sprinkled a little bit more, made more of an appearance throughout the rest of the story beyond just in the first few chapters and a couple times in the last few chapters, I think the book could have been perfect for me, or essentially perfect, so like a 5 out of 5 or better. essentially. But because of that minor disappointment, actually, it was a disappointment enough that I had to rate the book 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5, even though I want to give it a 5 stars. Maybe if I reread it and go in knowing how that actually plays into the narrative, I'll think of it a little bit differently in the future, but who knows? We'll see about that. But having finished those 2 books, and specifically Wuthering Heights being the only book at this point that I had like scheduled as the book that I'm going to read in March, I am finally getting back into The Count of Monte Cristo, which I began again today. I had stopped last time at around page 200. I read 40 pages this morning and had an absolute blast. I didn't realize how much I had been missing this. It's amazing story. I've been having such a good time with it. My translation specifically, I believe it's by Robin Buss, I want to say. Yeah. Robin Buss's translation is so smooth and quick and easy to read and fun. So that it, and it's all of those things in a way that makes it so that 10-page chapter feels like it goes by in 2 seconds, even if it takes me closer to a half hour to read. Like, it's just such an enjoyable experience. And even though part of me still doubts that I'll be able to finish this all in this month, given that I have a little over 1,000 pages left, there is the possibility that I'm still able to, given that I have like close to a dozen videos yet to edit and render over the next week. So I'll have plenty of extra reading time this week as well as this past week that I've had. It's just been wonderful, and I cannot wait to continue. But with all of that out of the way, let's talk about the bi-weekly writing. This is going to be a little bit different than my last update, where I announced I had done an absolutely absurd amount with the Reign of Ash sequence and the pre-writing. This week, or this fortnight, I suppose, I haven't really done much of any writing on that front until today, actually. Up until today, I had not done a single bit on that, except for like 8,000 or more words on notes for videos to record. So like a lot. I prepared a couple dozen videos ahead of time so that I could obviously get them recorded over the next couple weeks, or rather the past week, and then of course over these last couple days, and then spend another week editing all of them. Essentially, that is what I've been primarily working on. With so much video prep being done, I didn't get to work very much on the Reign of Ash, but I did get to work a little bit. Let me go ahead and pull up my little Excel file that I had the last time, switch scenes over to here to show you that the last time I showed you that I had started stage 2 of pre-writing and got through the Silent Rain trilogy, which is right here and in this graph, obviously. This fortnight I didn't get to do very much except today, where I had a little bit of extra time and I started doing the Heir of Time, and I got through the full stage 2 process for the first book of that series, and therefore got there. So I'm at about 4,800 words in stage 2 so far total, which I'm pretty happy with. This, all things told, at barely over 1,000 words, like barely met the target as such, and is a little bit shorter than I thought it would be, since all 3 Silent Rain books turned out being 1,250 words pretty easily. But either way, that is the state of things over there. Let's go ahead and switch back here. That is what I've been writing, and I think over the next couple weeks I'm going to be doing a lot more of that pre-writing on the Reign of Ash, just because I'm not going to have nearly so much of this video work that I'm going to need to be getting done. And I'm going to be spending a little bit less time on school the next couple weeks, just because I've been able to get a little bit ahead on portions of it. So, a little bit more writing ahead of me, I believe. Let's move on to the coming releases on the channel. In just a couple days here on the 7th of March, I'll obviously have my monthly February reading wrap-up and March TBR video, so the Book Binge episode 65. That one I'm excited about because you'll get to hear me talk again about the books that I just talked about here, but also about what happened in February, since February was a really great reading month for me, and what I'm excited about in March. That's going to be coming out. Then this Thursday on the 9th, I'll have my short February book haul video. It's a little bit longer than the last book haul video was, And I have been continuing to fill out my collection a little bit in ways that I really should think about stopping pretty soon, because I've got so many books that I still need to read that I need to stop worrying so much about my collection. But the next week, I'll have out on March 14th my Ashes of Man review. So if you want to hear all of my gushing about that book, I do so in that video, and it's mostly spoiler free. There's a section of it that is like sort of spoilers, in the sense that I go into how a specific chapter through the end affected me. So I don't actually mention what happens in it, but I talk about how it affected me so deeply that I kind of like put a light spoiler warning essentially in it. But the rest of the video is spoiler free. All of my gushing is spoiler free. So if you want to watch that, you are free to do so, and I hope you do, because Sun Eater is amazing, and I hope everyone reads it. Next Thursday on March 19th. 19th shouldn't be the right day, should it? Did I completely get these dates mixed up? 1 second. Yeah, I accidentally just typed it wrong. It wasn't supposed to be on the 19th. It's supposed to be on March 16th. I will have my first full bookshelf tour video coming. So my collection as of essentially the first day of March, I believe, 2023, I'll have a bookshelf tour video coming out, obviously showing off more in detail everything that I have on the shelves behind me, but also all the other shelves in my room that are not in frame. So I'm actually rather excited about that. I'm looking forward to see the reception on that video particularly, but that is what I've got coming out on the channel this time around. No state of affairs to mention here, because that did come out this last Friday. I managed to get that out a little bit earlier than I did compared to last month. So there's that. And of course, I recommend you go check that out so that you get a little bit more of a formal overview of everything that happened over the entire month. For whatever reason, the video this month did not get views. It got good watch time, like really good watch time for the views that it got, but it got no views for whatever reason. Either way, let's move on to a little bit of entertainment talk to round out this video. Not much to talk about this week compared to last week. I did mention last time that I was working on getting the Platinum Trophy for Evil West, which I had essentially completed by that time. This time around, I can say I did that. I got that Platinum Trophy the very next day, just like I planned to, and I am now in a great place to basically never play that game again unless it's like in co-op with a friend or something, just because I can. But otherwise, I'm well and thoroughly done with that game. I enjoyed it while it lasted, but it's not one that I'm likely to go back to the way that I go back to, say, Remnant from the Ashes. The other game that I played in this past fortnight was another thing that I mentioned in the last update video as well. I mentioned that I was thinking about Final Fantasy III being my next game that I focused on playing since I wanted to finish that. I did end up continuing the game and finishing it with all of the achievements consistent with how I played Final Fantasies 1 and 2. It was a little bit overwhelming at first. It took a couple hours of me just kind of grinding and doing the gameplay loop for a little bit for me to get fully back into it, especially me being, I don't know, I want to say it was actually fairly close to halfway through the game. Maybe not quite halfway. Maybe it was like barely under halfway. But either way, it took a couple hours of me just, grinding and leveling a little bit, especially since, come to figure out, my party had been under-leveled for the point that I was at the game. But then I finished it, had a wonderful time with it, just as I had with the first two games. I'm not sure if I prefer Final Fantasy 1 or 3 more. I think 3's expansions to the gameplay loop with the job system is very enjoyable and very cool idea, but I think it was maybe expanded a bit too much. I think there were a little bit too many jobs for all of the characters, like every single character having, I want to say, 18 individual unique jobs that they are possible of having at any point in the game is a bit much. But overall, I enjoyed the game a lot. The things that I liked about the job system, I've heard, are even better in Final Fantasy V. So I'm actually really looking forward to getting to Final Fantasy V because of what I enjoyed about 3 in the gameplay sphere. And then I'm also excited to get to Final Fantasy IV here next, because that one's the first one that has like a fully like dedicated story the way that we think of video game stories today with named characters and like an actual villain, compared to the first 3 games that basically didn't have a villain at all. Essentially, the villains were not very memorable, I would suppose. They didn't really have much going on. But with that being said, I don't have anything else to say in this video. I hope you check out everything that I've got going on the channel. I will see you on Tuesday with that reading wrap up and TBR. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.